I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
My administration will take all necessary steps to safeguard our citizens from this threat.
Hysterical xenophobia.
Giving Americans a false sense.
Is it accurate that if these steps had not been put in place, it could have been 2 million people dead here in the United States?
Yes. No matter how hard they try to stop us, they can't. We built the greatest economy the world has ever seen, and we're going to do it again. Together, we're beating back the invisible enemy.
What the federal government did was a phenomenal accomplishment.
Through it all, the world has witnessed the unyielding resolve of our incredible American people.
Promise made, promise kept.
And I'm fighting for you, and I love doing it with everything that I have. And you know that. With the grace of God, we will win this war, and we will win this war quickly. And we will make America great again.
Trump campaign is now reaching voters online.
You are seeing the President of the United States. Look at the lines.
You join our movement.
A lot of President Trump supporters here.
Greatest movement in the history of our country.
The most racist thing a person could tell me is that I'm supposed to choose something based on my race.
You ain't black.
Joe Biden has never been a friend to African Americans.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of what we call
Truth Over Facts.
China lied to us. They destroyed test kits. They lied to their own people.
Since Ronald Reagan, we haven't had a president more engaged and more involved in the Western Hemisphere than this administration, and it's been a great partnership to work with them on.
Well, you've heard of The View, but welcome to The Right View.
And with us today is the Motor City Madman, Ted Nugent, because this isn't your typical political show.
It's the most important election in our lifetime.
Joe Biden, who has a dismal record of economic failure and absolutely terrible ideas for the future.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will make America great again.
Team Trump Online.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Military Families for Trump Online. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, Senior Advisor to President Trump's re-election campaign and the National Chair of Trump Victory Finance Committee. In honor of Memorial Day this weekend, we honored the men and women who have bravely served our nation and sacrificed their lives for our freedom. These patriotic heroes will never be forgotten. And as our nation begins to recover from a global pandemic, we join President Trump and the rest of the country to honor those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. With me tonight are Joe Kent, Veterans and Military Families for Trump Advisory Board member, Kelli Hake, Military Families for Trump Advisory Board member, and her son, Gage Hake. Thank you so much, all of you, for being with us tonight. Just get a little bit of your thoughts. If we can start with you, Kelli.
Hi, thank you for having us. We're so happy to be here.
Fantastic. And George, thank you for being here as well.
Thank you very much for having me.
Fantastic. Well, great. And for the last few years, President Trump has fulfilled his promises to help our brave veterans and military families receive the help and the respect they deserve. The brave men and women who defended our freedom were ignored for far too long. For decades, we have sent our troops to fight wars on foreign soil with no end goal in sight and at a significant and great cost to American lives. In 2016, then candidate Trump promised that he would correct the course and end these foreign wars and get us back to America First policies where we take care of our own country. Tonight, we will discuss how he has done that and so much more. So Joe, Kelli, and Gage, you have all made great sacrifices for this country, and we salute you and we deeply appreciate your sacrifice, that sacrifice that you've made and of your family, all in the name of this country. And that goes for all the veterans and military families in the nation. As I sit here, I honestly can hardly fathom what you personally have struggled through, and your families. We wouldn't be here today without our troops. Joe, you spent decades serving in the armed forces, and your wife lost her life, God bless, on the front lines in the battle against ISIS. I want to thank you and your wife, Shannon, for your service and for your sacrifice for our country. If you could, please tell us about your experience and how you coped with your loss, which is, I know I can imagine, just unbearable. And how do you keep your beautiful wife's memory alive?
Thank you very much for having me and giving me this opportunity to talk about Shannon and share her story with you and with the nation. So like you said, my wife Shannon was killed last year fighting ISIS on the front lines in Man-Bage, Syria. It's a fight that Shannon and I both took very personally. She was a New Yorker. Her family is full of 9/11 first responders. That's what inspired her to join the military. I'd been in the military for a little bit myself when 9/11 happened, and we both made fighting on behalf of our nation our life's work. So when Shannon was killed, I knew that she was exactly where she wanted to be, serving with the folks that she felt passionate about and going after ISIS. So as painful as it's been to lose Shannon, I understood that she was where she wanted to be, taking the fight at the enemy. So I've tried to keep that positive message alive, that she was going after our enemies like she wanted to. So I share her memory every day with whoever I can, but especially with our two young sons. They're both 1 year old and 3 years old when she was killed. So we talk about her and talk about why she went and deployed and why she went and fought nearly every day.
It's so important, I think, to do that and to make sure that your children that you have together really know and love and have that cherished memory of their mother in their heart, that they carry it, with them every day, when they wake up in the morning and they go to bed at night, that they have that love and pride that they had such an incredible mother who, God bless, is, looking over on them from heaven and looking after them. So, I know in a sense, I grew up without a mother. My brother and I, he was 8 and I was 10 when we lost our mother to leukemia, not at war. But it's, I know what that's like and how important it is to keep that memory alive. So I feel for you, and the nation is so grateful to have you and to have had, Shannon fighting on our behalf. So God bless and thank you so much. And we're there for you in heart and in prayer and in spirit. And Kelli and Gage, you both have suffered through similar circumstances. Kelli, I know you lost your husband, and Gage, you lost your father. It truly is an unbearable loss. If you can, share with our audience at home, some of the viewers who have had some of those similar experiences, and they can really benefit from your words, from your experience, from you telling them how you cope with your loss and how, in fact, you honor Chris's legacy.
Yeah. Gage and I have dealt with this a lot together. We talk about Chris all the time. We definitely, every day we think about the good things. I always wanted to not worry about any of the bad stuff. There's always the negative with, he died in Iraq and it's awful, but the fact that he was fighting for our country is really the most important thing. And he died doing what he loved. He was over there fighting for our country. And so every day we just remember that he was doing what he loved. And there was a letter he wrote to Gage at one point that said, I know I'm not home with you, but I'm fighting so that you can ride your bike in the streets and play soccer or play baseball. So we know that that's what he was doing. He knew what he was doing when he was over there. And same way with Joe, we talk about him. We look at pictures all the time. We love to spend time with Chris's family. So we're very close with Chris's family. And we go over there for weekends and go to the lake. And it's the best thing is being around family and being around people that loved him and being able to share those memories with them.
Well, you have a great mom there, who's keeping the memory of your father alive. And what's great, Gage, is that every day that you're doing things in your life and making choices, a part of your father lives on in you and you represent him. He's alive in you and through you and what you choose to do with your life. And in those people that you interact with and you bring into your life, they get to experience a piece of your father because you represent him, which I think is a very cool thing and always important to feel very special and good about. And I know it's tough to talk about your dad. It is very hard to talk when you've lost someone. So I appreciate you even, being here and trying, to share with us and representing your dad well. So we certainly appreciate it. So thank you guys for opening up to us about that. Honestly, when you think about it, your willingness to share these memories, it touches all of our lives, and it helps us understand the sacrifices that military families make every single day. And what I'm curious about is if there's any advice that the three of you would be willing to give, or you can think about to give to other families who have also lost loved ones overseas. I'll start with you, Joe.
Yeah, it's hard to give people specific advice on something so personal and challenging.
True.
But what's really helped me is conversations that Shannon and I had prior to me deploying, where I said, hey, if the worst happens and I don't make it home, like I don't want you to live in sorrow. Just honor my memory, do the best you can to stay happy, because that's why we're fighting. And as I was driving Shannon to the airport, she reminded me of the same thing. So, I mean, I think that's a common theme with everyone who goes forth to fight our nation's enemies, is that they're doing this because they want a good life here in the United States. So everyone should be aware of the sacrifices that are being made, but also enjoy the freedom provided by those that have sacrificed.
Absolutely. And it's true. Whenever you think, like, if somebody could come back to us and say they would want to make sure that we were happy, that we were living our best life, that, we were making most of this life, because as we know, and the three of you know very painfully, is that, this life sometimes is a bus stop, right? It's very quick. Things happen before you know it. And so, what would you do and say to someone that you love today? If you knew that was maybe the last conversation that you would have with them. That's how you should treat your loved ones and your family, I think, every day. And it's nice to have those nice memories. It's good that you have that memory, Joe, of your conversation with Shannon and how much she wanted you to be happy and, to live your life and do things that you believe in. And by the way, also including opening up like you're doing here to help other families in need that might need that experience and that commonality by being able to share and hear some of these, experiences. Kelli, how about you? What advice would you give?
I first off, I would like to say, Joe, I have the exact same memory. Like, I remember riding in the car and Chris saying the same things to me. I got the chills when you actually said that, because I have the same exact memory. But I would say to families who are in the same kind of situation is to talk about it, be open and honest, and talk about your feelings, talk about what's going on with you, talk about how it's made you feel. I mean, in this situation, at least for Gage and I, you're not just losing your husband or father. We were losing, we were stationed in Georgia. So we were living in Georgia away from our family. So we had to move from Georgia to Oklahoma. So you're kind of losing everything at that point. And I would say just find someone to talk to and find someone that you can really depend on to be there for you and your children.
Such good advice. It's important the people you surround yourself with, to honor the legacy of those you've lost, and also to just live life going forward, making good choices with people who are really going to be there for you and support you. Thanks you guys so much. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but we're going to be right back with more Military Families for Trump Online. Stay with us.
Ready to go?
This is a crisis.
This is no time for Donald Trump's record of hysterical xenophobia.
Biden's son inked $1 billion deal with a subsidiary of the Bank of China.
Why? We're getting nervous, man. China is going to eat our lunch? Come on, man. They're not bad folks.
Since the outbreak, the Communist Party has been mobilizing overseas organizations to buy local supplies and send them to China.
The growth of China is overwhelmingly in our interest. What a beautiful history we wrote together. Banning all travel will not stop it.
The president is right. That travel restriction on China, as every public health official we've talked to said, bought the country time.
Hysterical xenophobia. Xenophobia.
Joe.
I complimented him on dealing with China. I'm not going nuts.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to Military Families for Trump Online. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, and I'm joined by Joe Kent, Kelli Hake, and her son Gage. We just heard from these three patriots who have sacrificed for our country and how they keep the memories of their loved ones alive. Now, throughout his 2016 campaign, President Trump promised that he would stop the endless wars that the United States has spent decades fighting across the globe. Despite the naysayers who predicted it would take years to destroy the ISIS caliphate, President Trump has done exactly that. And just as an example, he did what the Obama-Biden administration refused to do and took a stand against Iran's tyranny, even killing the terrorist leader, Qasem Soleimani, who was responsible for many American deaths throughout the years. Now, Kelli and Gage, I know you two are both passionate about this issue as well. What are your thoughts on President Trump's tough stance against Iran? And can you tell our viewers more about what you've been working on regarding the banks that helped fund Soleimani's terrorism? I'll start with you, Kelli.
Yes. So we are very happy that President Trump got Soleimani. We did a little happy dance around our living room when we heard back in January. It definitely started off our year amazing. So go President Trump. We're very happy about his very hard stance against Iran, of course. We do believe that Iran was responsible, or the terrorist groups in Iran were responsible for the killing of my husband and Gage's dad. What you were talking about the banks. So we have a lawsuit right now that is being worked on, and we can definitely use all the help we can get, but it is saying that the banks were laundering money to fund Soleimani and its proxies, basically to help them get all of the weapons and the travel expenses, all the money they need to carry out the war on terrorism that they are doing. Basically everything that they need to kill American soldiers, they're getting it through these banks, and the banks know what they're doing. And so we have a lawsuit right now against those banks. My goal for this is to tell them you have to stop. If the banks are not going to fund these terrorist groups, then they're going to have a lot more difficult time killing our soldiers. So if we can get that out there and we can make sure that these banks can't keep doing this, then hopefully we can shut down some of these terrorist groups.
It's so true. You know, I'm a former prosecutor, and one of the things we would do in prosecuting cases, whether it was, RICO cases or gang cases, you follow the money. You go to the banks, you find out, you trace where the source is that they're getting the funding, and you cut it off. And that's one of the financial weapons we have to be able to utilize in our arsenal to be able to shut down terrorism, because they have to have money to fund their operation. So what you're doing is incredibly smart, and it's a really good way to save other American lives, because if we can choke them off in terms of their financial capital, then we can help stop their operations, and they get essentially choked out. I want to bring Joe in on this. People have tried to criticize President Trump for Soleimani and other terrorists that he's taken out. And look what he did with ISIS. Everybody said it couldn't be done. I mean, that is kind of leadership and decisiveness and being able to honor the people that are in the field, that are in the arena, to be able to give them the authority to make those decisions and execute, when before there was so much red tape and bureaucracy, and get Washington, D.C. lawyers involved. When people are in the theater right there, special operators ready to act on like a high value target. Look what he did. Others could have taken Soleimani out, but they didn't. President Trump had the resolve to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. President Trump's resolve and decisiveness to kill Soleimani before he killed even more of our soldiers should be absolutely commended. I mean, there was lots of folks who said that there was no actual imminent threat against U.S. forces, and that's just completely false. Soleimani's whole playbook was to let us defeat ISIS so he could seize all the terrain in Iraq, which he was well on his way of doing. And then starting last December, when he killed an American contractor and then laid siege to the U.S. embassy, he was trying to kick us out of Iraq. By killing Soleimani, and with him Abu Mahdi Mohandas, another mass murderer, American blood in his hands, U.S. designated terrorist, President Trump really flipped the table on the Iranians. They saw that not only would President Trump use max economic sanctions, but he would also take their leaders off the battlefield. The Iranians, because of the Bush administration and the Obama administration's lack of will of going after them, they waltzed around Iraq, Iran, all throughout the world like no one would touch them. And
Absolutely.
No one would until President Trump said, hey, if you guys harm one American, I will take action. And they didn't believe him. He gave them plenty of chances. He demonstrated incredible restraint until the time they drew U.S. blood. And then on his watch, President Trump took decisive action and took out Soleimani and Abu Mahandas, which is exactly what President Trump did against ISIS as well. President Obama, for various reasons, mostly because he wanted to cut his deal with Iran, did not want to touch any issue in the Middle East. He politically knew that Iraq and Syria really wasn't on his record because he didn't vote for it as a senator. So he let everything there fester. He let ISIS take over 2 countries, take over large swaths of Libya. And he pretty much knew that since that happened in his second term, he could pawn it off on the next guy. Well, the next guy was President Trump, and Trump knew that he had to get it taken care of. So I deployed to fight ISIS in 2016, and we were at a standstill. ISIS was very beatable, but there was just no actual guidance to destroy ISIS. Everything was very much in this containment phase, which pretty much to folks who've never been to war means we still need you to go, we still need you to fight and die, but we don't have a plan to win, and we really don't care that much. It's a very demotivating thing to hear for 8 years. Of an administration. So when President Trump came in and, like you said, enabled the commanders on the ground to make the hard calls to go ahead and defeat ISIS, Trump said, hey, I want ISIS defeated, take Raqqa, take Mosul. He enabled the military to do just that, which is exactly what we need from a commander-in-chief.
Absolutely. It's so true. And I love that you ended that sentence on commander-in-chief, because you really have to think about it. When people are at home watching this, think about who you want as your commander-in-chief. Who are you going to vote for on November 3rd? When you wake up in the morning on the 4th, President Trump wants to bring our troops home safely, bring them home to their loved ones, to their mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, wives and husbands. And I want to ask both of you, why do you think it is so important to get out of these, quote, endless wars and return our troops to the homeland? I'll start with you, Kelli, and then Joe.
For me, I just hate to see all the deaths if they're unneeded at this point. I don't know that as much about the military, but for me, it's definitely getting them home to their families, getting them home to be able to spend these times with their children and have their birthdays at home with them. Getting them home. That's just, bring them home and let them spend time with their families.
Yeah, it's so true, Joe, because there were so many intractable wars. And when you think of even like, Afghanistan, I mean, the whole positioning there is just so untenable, just even from the geography and the topical, the way that the area is with all the mountainous regions. It's just very difficult. It's complex. Everybody's gone in before and tried to take it over, the Russians, etc. These battles need to be fought, but it needs to be smart. You just can't leave it open-ended, with no game plan, with no, mission statement of anything about what you want to try to achieve.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I think part and parcel to ending the endless wars, people need to remember why we got into these wars. The obvious answer is 9/11. We went to Afghanistan to get rid of Al-Qaeda and get rid of the Taliban that supported Al-Qaeda all those years ago. Quickly thereafter, 9/11 and our initial response, we deviated from that and went on this nation-building experiment led by the Bush administration, and it was a bipartisan effort championed in the Senate by Joe Biden. So Biden's had a dry run at this. He supported Bush's disastrous moves to extend these wars into Iraq.
So true. Biden is Bush in Democrat clothing. Let's be honest. In terms of supporting these endless wars. Yeah,
he absolutely is, and that's why I've been a supporter of Trump since he hit the national stage in 2016. When he initially turned his ire and his criticism against the Republican Party that he was running as a part of, he said, hey, look, we've gotten it wrong too. And that honesty from a politician is extremely refreshing, because when something fails, like nation building does, you can't continue to do it. The Bush administration tried for 8 years. Like I said, Obama knew that a lot of this wasn't on his record, so he pawned it off onto Biden. And we continued the same exact techniques, the same exact strategy. There was some different, we used different words here and there, but really, we just remained in these places trying to rebuild these nations in our image, nation building or whatever you want to call it. And we didn't get anything out of it. So Trump saying that he wants to get us out of these wars that's what won him my vote, and that's why I think people should vote for him going forward in this coming November.
That is so important. See, because for you, that was a single issue that you said, wait a second, it's a defining issue that I'm really happy to cast my vote for President Trump. And he hasn't disappointed, let's be honest, because you know what? President Trump, he isn't a partisan. Right. He thinks about what the right thing to do is with every issue that he faces. He approaches everything. He is a problem solver. He is solution oriented, and he has tremendous respect for families and for the military. I think more than anybody that's preceded him, he loves the military. He loves the veterans, and he appreciates and values American life. And God bless him for that. All right. Thank you, guys. That was fantastic. We're going to take one final commercial break, and we're going to be right back for more with Military Families for Trump Online. Stay with us.
During the coronavirus pandemic, Joe Biden criticized President Trump's China travel ban.
Hysterical xenophobia.
He was dead wrong. For 40 years, Biden's been wrong on China, supporting trade deals that destroy American jobs, giving China most favored nation status, letting China walk all over us.
The beautiful history we wrote together.
But Biden has never been more wrong than now. Joe Biden in the White House would be a deadly mistake.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
In 2016, we built an unbeatable operation that changed history. Now, we unveil our next breakthrough. The exclusive Trump 2020 app. This isn't just an app. This is your source for real news, not fake news, straight from the campaign and the president himself. This is your direct line to give input on key campaign issues, your portal to register voters, host MAGA meetups, your scheduler, your application on becoming a Trump team leader. Join millions and get a front row seat to our virtual events. Watch Team Trump every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Earn points, get rewarded, get the presidential photo. Oh, and did we mention this is your personal shopper too? So just to repeat, this isn't just an app. This is your tool to keep America great. Join the army for Trump and download the app today.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. And you ain't black. And you ain't black. And you ain't black.
It was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country.
Welcome back to Military Families for Trump Online. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle. Our military veterans and the military families throughout our incredible nation have been all at the top of President Trump's priorities. The men and women who fought for our freedom were often ignored and forgotten in previous administrations, but not anymore. Kelli and Gage, both of you attended the State of the Union in the Capitol earlier this year as the president's special guest.
Every day, America's men and women in uniform demonstrate the infinite depth of love that dwells in the human heart. One of these American heroes was Army Staff Sergeant Christopher Hake. On his second deployment to Iraq in 2008, Sergeant Hake wrote a letter to his one-year-old son, Gage. "I will be with you again," he wrote to Gage. "I will teach you to ride your first bike, build your first sandbox, watch you play sports, and see you have kids also. I love you, son. Take care of your mother. I am always with you, Daddy." On Easter Sunday of 2008, Chris was out on patrol in Baghdad when his Bradley fighting vehicle was hit by a roadside bomb. That night, he made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Sergeant Hake now rests in eternal glory in Arlington, and his wife, Kelli, is in the gallery tonight, joined by their son, who is now a 13-year-old and doing very, very well. To Kelli and Gage, Chris will live in our hearts forever. He is looking down on you now. Thank you.
What was it like getting to meet the president, Gage?
It was pretty sweet. Just getting to like see him in person was pretty awesome.
Yeah, versus on TV or in the rallies. How did it compare, like with seeing him on television versus meeting him in person? He's very friendly. He's very nice, isn't he?
Yeah, he was really nice. Really nice.
What did he say to you, sweetheart, if you can remember?
I don't really remember. It just all happened. But
it's a big moment, right? You meet the president and you're like, oh my gosh, maybe mom remembers. Do you remember what it was like or what he said to Gage?
I honestly don't remember.
So you were starstruck too. I can imagine.
Also starstruck. All I remember is that he told my daughter how beautiful she was like 3 times, and so we were just like, oh my gosh, yes, you're so nice.
Oh, he's very sweet, such a warm person, and he loves families. He's the best. I mean, I know him. He's my friend, for 15 years, and I really treasure our friendship. I'm so happy and feel so incredibly blessed that this country can get someone like President Trump to be able to lead the way and really have our back. That's why I do what I do with the campaign, to have his back, because he is so good to people. He loves the military and the veterans. I come from a military family. My father served in the Army as well. And I just, I have such respect for what he's done in terms of honoring our veterans and bringing our troops, and our family members home safe. So that is just immeasurable in terms of, the gratitude I know we all feel for him. And, Joe, throughout the last few years, President Trump has passed new reforms to ensure that our veterans and our military families receive the help and the care that they deserve. He has signed the Mission Act, which is the Veterans Appeals Improvement and Modernization Act, and the Veterans Affairs Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act to reform the VA, which was in desperate need of reform. Now, just last year, the president signed the National Defense Authorization Act, which was entitled to give our troops a 3.1% pay raise, in addition to improving military education and child care. And the Trump administration has worked hard to ensure that veterans have the access to the resources and that they need, right, in order to maintain strong mental health, which is such a challenge when they come home from serving overseas and the horrors that they have to experience and go through. It's so important to make sure that they have that mental support when they come back and the resources. So the administration, along with Second Lady Karen Pence, they've also taken a very strong stance in combating veteran suicides. So many come back with emotional and psychological problems. Joe, being a veteran, what improvements have you personally seen under this administration? Talk to us about it and the importance of it for those military families who have people who are serving overseas, what to expect when they come back, and how this administration has really answered the call to improve those resources and accessibility for veterans.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with the Mission Act. That was very helpful, especially for me. After my wife was killed, I relocated and went back to my hometown in Oregon. So I'm far away from military bases. So prior to the Mission Act, it would have been a ton of red tape and fairly difficult for me to get my children seen by out of the TRICARE system provider. That's the military healthcare provider. But after the Mission Act, I was able to basically go choose whatever primary care physician that I wanted for my children and for myself. And the VA covered it.
That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. I mean, it's one less thing to worry about. And then it's also peace of mind for my kids. The paperwork process is way easier now. That's been taken care of and kind of streamlined. All the health care and veterans care that you mentioned is incredibly critical, because I think what a lot of folks who maybe aren't tied to the military don't realize that the global war on terror has been fought kind of by the same people over and over again. There's some folks that have only done one tour, but for the most part, it's a very professional force. So people go and they redeploy and they deploy all over again. So having the family taken care of and having child care, especially for the spouses, is critical. That's something that my wife and I, being a dual military couple prior to her being killed.
Yes, very important.
We dealt with and we struggled with. It's a real challenge. When President Trump came in and increased the funding for those on-base services, it really helped out all the military families. And that helps everybody when they go forth to deploy and fight the wars. Knowing that's taken care of back home is critical.
It's such peace of mind. If there's one thing that's so frustrating is you want to serve, you're putting it all on the line. You don't want to make sure your family, you want to make sure they're not suffering, that they're able to get the resources that they need. A simple thing about paperwork, just trying to be able to cut through that and be able to choose your doctor and be able to get your primary care physician, that is a game changer, and it's something that also I think keeps, like, when you are a military individual and you're serving overseas, that's one less thing you have to worry about, that you're not like putting your family in a worse position, but guess what, that they're going to be able to get the quality, good healthcare, physicians, et cetera, that they want. That's peace of mind, and that helps your eye on the mission focus, and not worrying that you're letting somebody down at home. That helps save lives. You're not distracted out there as well, and your family's well taken care of, which they deserve to be when you're making the ultimate sacrifice for the country. So the Trump administration is working hard to protect families of the fallen. And Kelli, in your personal experience, how has it been, making that transition and being able to get some resources that you need as a Gold Star family?
So the TRICARE stuff, I know the military's with insurance, it's been very easy for us to get to see our own doctor. We haven't had to go to military base. So that's definitely been an easy way for us to not have to travel to see doctors. That's been really good. I know one thing, Chris, when he passed away, his big thing was, I want to make sure that you and my son are taken care of no matter what. Even if when I'm gone, I want to make sure that, you don't have to worry about money or a house or a job or anything else. And at that point, he wanted to make sure we would have insurance and all of that. And President Trump has made that easy for us to have. We don't have to, like they were saying, cutting through all the red tape. It's easy for us to make sure that we can get health care and Gage, we have schooling, education. My college was paid for. Gage's college will be paid for.
Sure.
So there are definitely some things for Gold Star families that we are able to have that we wouldn't have normally.
Yeah, and that's the game changer. The education piece is so important. The insurance piece, and it's what the families deserve. It's the least that the country can do for the families of the fallen, to make sure that they are honored and respected, and that incredible sacrifice that the families have to go through and losing their loved one. It's a very important way that this country can honor them, and they should. And thanks to President Trump, it's a priority for President Trump personally and for his administration. I know that for a fact. The Obama-Biden administration often left our veterans, our troops, and even our military families out in the cold as our adversaries grew stronger, took advantage of us. President Trump changed all of that, and he did his best to ensure that our armed forces are well taken care of and respected. He refused to cower to our enemies and took every action necessary to ensure the safety of Americans abroad. Joe and Kelli, why do you personally believe it is important to keep President Trump in office, and what would a Biden presidency mean for the future of our nation? Joe?
The biggest reason I would say that President Trump has earned my vote, and earned, I think, another 4 years from the American people, is that Trump has taken the traditional way to approach the world, and he's kind of flipped it on its head in our advantage. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party before them, they've had these very lofty, almost academic approaches to how we deal with the world. The Republicans, neoconservatives, taking over countries and trying to remake them in our image. Obama, his quote-unquote extending the hand, his globalism, the Davos crowd. A lot of theory, but not a lot of actual results. President Trump has taken that. He internally, I think, gutted the Republican Party of its failed policies and said, hey, here's our new trajectory. And that's, I think, when we're all long gone, historians look back on what President Trump has done, I think that's going to be one of his major accomplishments, where he turned the Republican Party around 180 on its head, and put them on a trajectory to put the country first, as opposed to some ideological goal. So that's been huge. Him attempting to get us out of the endless wars. I think he's hit some snags, but I think he's going to pull us through. The snags have been that there's folks within the government. The government's a huge organization that don't support his agenda, and they'll drag their feet every step of the way. We've seen that when he tried to pull us out of Syria. Yeah. Every time Trump tries to get us out of a war, we hear the very loud cries from within the party and without outside the party. China is another huge one. That's on the forefront of everyone's mind right now because of COVID. People are seeing right now finally what China's been up to. But President Trump called that out all the way back in 2016. China was almost a very specific topic that not many people watched prior to President Trump coming and saying, hey, this country, China over here, is threatening us by taking over large swaths of our economy, by currency manipulation.
Absolutely.
And their aggression. So President Trump going after that as well is another reason why we need to keep him in office. Because, again, we've had a dry run of Biden. Biden had an internship essentially for 8 years as the vice president. We saw what that did in the GWAT. Going back to 2000, when Biden voted, he supported Bill Clinton's efforts to normalize relations with China. Biden has done nothing but ship American jobs overseas and leave our supply chains vulnerable to China. So really, if we surrender and let Joe Biden and the Democrats and the establishment take back over again, we're going to be stepping back 4 more years, and we'll just be handing all the progress that President Trump has made back over. So I really encourage everyone to get out and vote for President Trump for 4 more years.
Amen. From your mouth to God's ears. I couldn't have stated it better myself. I mean, it's really imperative. It's such an important choice. Again, just even on this issue alone, you really cannot trust Joe Biden as commander-in-chief and put him in the helm. We don't want to undo all of the advancements and the steps that President Trump has done to make sure that military families and veterans are honored and well taken care of, that when they come home, we take care of their health, their well-being, and their families, for all those who have made the most incredible and ultimate sacrifice. Kelli, get your thoughts and reflections.
Okay, so I 100% agree with everything Joe said. A little bit more from a more personal I believe that everything the president has done has been in more of like instead of a political eyes or the what a normal president would look into it as doing everything. I just feel like the president has done everything with all of his heart. And when he does something, he gives all of it. So I feel like when President Trump goes forth with an idea, or when he goes forth and he decides he's going to do something, he's not doing it halfway. He's going to get it done, and he's going to get it done all the way, and he's going to believe in himself 100%. Whereas I feel like Biden might be wishy-washy, or he might throw things around. I do believe that President Trump will always have veterans and military on his mind with the choices that he makes. He's always been there to support all veterans and all military, and I think that he will do that going forth. I think that if we don't reelect him, we will definitely be resetting back to 4 years. We will lose all the progress that we've made. I think we have no other choice. We need President Trump for another 4 years. There is no other option.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
So in November, we have to get out there and vote. We need him, not just for the military, not just for veterans, but our country needs him for president.
So true. And speaking of needs, President Trump didn't need this job. He didn't need this job. He chose to serve like the military families choose to serve, to make a sacrifice and against incredible odds and horrific incoming every day against this man and against the family. But he does it because you guys are worth it. America is worth it. This country is worth it in the future. And that's why we have to make our voices heard and our votes felt on November 3rd. I can't thank you all enough for spending your night with us. We need as many patriots as possible to join our efforts to keep America great this November. And here's how you at home can get involved. Download the new groundbreaking Trump 2020 app, now available on Apple and Android. And to stay in contact with us, please text Trump to 88022. And if you or your friends, your family, your neighbors want to be involved in our fight to re-elect President Donald J. Trump, please visit militaryfamily.org. families, donaldjtrump.com to sign up. And I want to thank our amazing guests again, Joe Kent, Kelli Hake, and George Hake, for joining us tonight. What an honor it was to do this program with you all tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you. And thank you to our supporters for tuning in at home. God bless you and your families. God bless this country and the President of the United States. Good night.